If you're struggling to hit your sales targets and are constantly coming up 80 to 85% short of your goals and wondering why, even after all of your best effort, why is it that we keep coming up short on our sales target 80 to 85%, this video is for you. I discovered this working with hundreds of companies around the world, analyzing their sales data. And when I started to plot it on a sales graph showing sales target versus break even, I found this little dude called Mr. Wiggly Worm. And he exists on every sales graph and follows a very similar pattern. And left long enough, or if you don't recognize this wiggly worm and find how to break out of the break even thinking that can plague businesses to always come up short, this is how you're going to do it. What I'm going to clip in next is actually a presentation that we shared at one of our famous Whisky Webinars, where I deep dove into this concept of break-even thinking and why it's making so many sales leaders bang their head against the wall, wondering why they're always so close, yet so far, month in, month out. It's really going to answer three big questions. Number one, what's causing that near miss sales target, 80 to 85% short, all the time? Number two, you're going to break free from the cycle of break-even thinking and be able to recognize it in your team when they have break-even thinking. And number three, it's going to help you not only just hit sales targets, but absolutely blitz them into a point where you're breaking records and celebrating them like mad. So enjoy.
How this whole thing came about, it would have been 6 or 7 years ago. I've called this story the infamous wiggly worm. And the cool part about the wiggly worm is you will notice this in your organization too. So place yourself into this story. But essentially, I was fresh in the consulting game, fresh into the business, and I was lucky enough to snag an inquiry at my very first project-related company that I've ever been to. I didn't even know really what projects were before I started in this. I was always in sales, but I'd never really focused in on project sales. Anyway, they called me into their organization. I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to come and meet you. I was nervous as anyway. I walked into this boardroom, and strangely enough, the director of the company and their sales team was just outside of the boardroom. And I was a bit nervous, so I said, oh, let's just make some conversation. I said to the guy, this graph was on his wall. It was like printed out in an A3 piece of paper and stuck it on the wall. And it said on there, you know, the sales results from the previous month. And of course, making conversation, I pointed to the graph and I said, so tell me about this, tell me about your results. And he goes, oh yeah, Steve, look, as you can see here, you know, not really where we want to be, but not doing too bad either. I said, oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, cool. Long story short, I got to a position, I said, hey, do you mind if I start interviewing your sales team? And he said, yeah, of course, go for it. So we started pulling them in one by one. I said, so tell me about your sales results. And the first person like, oh yeah, look, it's a pretty tough market at the moment. You know, we're not really hitting budgets or where we want to be, but look, we're not as bad as we could be doing, you know, but you know, so. Next person came in, tell me about your results. Same sort of thing, you know, oh, it's tough out there and can't really get where we want to go, but hey, it's not all doom and gloom. It's like interesting. 4 or 5 salespeople walked in, and it got to a point where it really wasn't so much what they were saying, but it was more so how they were saying it. It was kind of like, nah. It just wasn't any sort of buzz in the place, which by the way is probably a good sign that why you aren't hitting sales results if there's not some drive and culture in your business. But anyway, that's a side note. So I called them all into the room and I said, I think I've diagnosed at least maybe your first problem here. And they said, yeah, go on. I said, I don't think you actually even care if you're hitting sales target. I kind of like sit back and it's a bit weird. And I just asked them, I said, can you tell me just flat out, like I'm a pretty honest sort of guy. Let's just have a bit of fun here. Can you tell me like when this place comes alive? Like when does this place really like blow up and like there's some drive and there's some energy and, you know, meetings start happening and phones start going and you start doing some deals? And, oh, look, Steve, when it gets below that break-even line, oh, mate, the place comes to life. I said, interesting. I think I see your problem here. I said, you don't care if you hit sales target, you just care if you hit break even. Everyone kind of looked around and was like, yeah, well, that's kind of a bit full on, but I suppose that's partially true. And as at this moment, I didn't really quite realize it at the time, but I started realizing that we have these invisible lines in our mind, okay? Anyway, did the deal with these clients, great news. My wife and kids were happy, we're in business. Went into the next organization, much smaller organization. The previous one was sort of turning over $500,000 a month. This one was a mum and pop operation doing 150K. Similar things, yet had an invisible break-even line. Okay, it wasn't showing on a graph, but they all kind of knew where it was. They could all kind of sense when the place needed to come alive. I was like, interesting. Next place I walked into was a massive business, one of the biggest businesses I've ever worked with, like hundreds of millions of dollars. And again, they didn't have a break-even line. They didn't measure the sales results in dollars. They measured them in units. They're actually selling John Deere tractors and machinery and all sorts of stuff. And same sort of thing. I said to them, when does this place come alive? And they said, oh, when it's below this amount of units per month, the place goes nuts. I said, interesting. And it was at this moment I realized, because I started studying the numbers. I had Excel spreadsheets and I'd grab all the data. And I realized that wherever they set their sights on from a sales target or quota point of view, companies, regardless of size, regardless of industry, regardless of whatever, would be consistently coming 80 to 85% short of wherever it would be that they're measuring, and or would be hovering in between their two kind of invisible lines in their mind. Let's call this minimum standard and where we kind of want to be. People would consistently hover in between. And then I started thinking, why is that? How is this possible? It would make sense if we all worked with the same industry in the same location, right? Be like, oh, the reason why they're 80% of budget or less is because of this. But it's pretty hard to do when you've got 5 different industries in 5 different locations, and they all, with all different size businesses, they all kind of end up at this 80 to 85% short game. I was like, there's got to be something psychological about this. So I started to do some more research, and I'm like, okay, I'm going for a run, 5K run. Hit about 3.8. I'm like, that'll do, right? I'm going, I'm not drinking this week. No drinking this week. No drinking this week. I'm going to be a good boy. No beers, no beverages, no gin and tonics. Friday night comes along. It's pretty close to a full week. Let's have a beer, right? And it happened over and over. Now my daughters are in school, right? My daughters come home and they said, Daddy, look what I got on my test. Teacher said it's really good. What'd you score? 80 to 85%. And here's the point. Human beings aren't designed to be 100% people. Otherwise, whatever you would set your sights on, you'd always nail it. We're 80 to 85% people. That's who we are. We're near enough, good enough people. And so at this moment, I realized we got 2 options. We either somehow magically turn into 100% people, or we find a different way. Now, going back to the first story, this first boardroom that I was in, I was having a chat to him. It was one of our first sessions together. I said, first step we're going to do, team, is we're going to remove the break-even line off any graph in this business. I said, I don't care about your break-even, nor should you. The only person that should care about that is your CFO or your accountant. If you're in sales, your job is not to work really, 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 really hard and then make $0, because that's what break-even is. So I don't know about you. I'd rather go on the golf course, play 18 holes and earn the same net result. $0, right? We're not in the business of break even. So I said, I don't understand why we should put it there. By the way, side note, I'd worked with one company that was adamant of leaving the break even line on, and I wanted to prove this philosophy with them. So I worked with a co-partner who was doing financial consulting at the time. We said that we did a review of their expenses and they were actually out from where they thought they were. The expenses rose and we actually pushed the break even line up. Guess what happened to the sales results? They went up in equal proportions. And I said to the team 3 months later, I said, I'm sorry to pull the dirty on you here, but I just want to let you know that me and this other guy, CFO, we actually did some reviews. The break even was actually less than we thought it was. We said it was more, and look what happened to your change. What happened to your sales results when we set a new minimum standard? And they were like, damn, okay.
Wow.
There is something in this.
I haven't heard that part of the story before.
Yeah, it was legit, man, because they were adamant, like, no, we need to know where we're breaking even, because that's when we're starting to make profit. I said, yeah, fine, but not from the sales point of view. So going back to the first story, I said to the company, can you tell me what's the best month you've ever had in business? What's the best month you've ever done? Record month. Sales in, by the way, not invoiced out. Okay, so you guys will get this in the projects game. We're talking about sales in here, not invoiced out, because there's always a lag measure, right? I said, what's the best month you've ever had sales in? And they said, oh, Steve, last year we had this big government contract. We won 760K, 760 grand. By the way, this team was averaging about 500s, sometimes less, sometimes more, but 760. And then as soon as that person said that, one person threw up their hand and said, oh yeah, but that was with that one-off contract. We'll never get that again. I was like, interesting, here we go. Lend me a break. So we bounced a few ideas back and forth and they're like, oh, but maybe we could do it again. So maybe like 760 or something. Anyway, I said, okay, cool. 760, fair enough. I said to him, imagine we could take care of all your problems, remove your constraints, get everything lined up, have everything totally schmick to set a brand new record in the business, something that has never been done before. And they're like, oh, yeah, interesting. I said, what do you reckon that number could be? What do you reckon we could hit if we were to actually get ourselves organized, line some things up, just imagine we had a magic wand. What could it be? And again, they went around the table. Oh, yeah, maybe 600. I'm like, you've already done 760. So has it got to be more than that? Oh, yeah, maybe. What about 762? Oh, no. And anyway, they're bouncing back and forth. And then this one guy put up his hand in the back corner and he says, we've never done $1 million in a month. Wouldn't that be sick? Everyone kind of like looked at this new kid like, mate, you're off your tree. Anyway, there was a big enough silence and enough smiles on our face. I said, done. Project 1M, it is. And we plastered it everywhere. We made up a poster for it. We stuck it around the organization. The operations team knew it all. Project 1M it was. And we put it on the graph. By the way, the sales target didn't change. I said, let's keep it exactly where we set the budgets. I'm not in the business of changing your sales targets because that's a pretty dog act as a sales trainer, but two, like, let's just leave it where it is. But let's go for this Project 1M. Imagine if we could smash it. And anyway, over the next 14 months, in this case, they got close, and then bang, one day they hit it. And you should have seen the place, Das. I actually went in there and helped them do sales calls. You should have seen the place when we were sitting at like 912K with 4 days to go. The place went nuts. And it was the first time I saw an organization that had already blitzed sales target and were gunning for something extra. And we did it. We got 1.04, and the place went nuts. The deal bell was ringing, operations was going nuts because we had some mandatory celebration in place for when we hit it, right? It's part of the team game. But when we looked at their last 14, 12-month results and we plotted out the whole yearly thing, guess where the wiggly worm went? It 80 to 85% of what Project 1M was consistently, but they blitzed the year-on-year target. Now, this was an organization that was kind of flatlining for many years, been in business for years. And it happened again. And it happened again. Another company we were working with, $2 million a month. First time they said it, let's go for Project 3M. Smashed it. Did it in 4 months. Did it again 2 months after that. And they said, stuff it. We're thinking way too small here. Let's set Project 8M. $8 million in a month. Took them 8 months to hit it. Then they set Super Project 10M. And they all went on a boat and had a great time celebrating. And it proved the fact that when you have a collective organization, when you have a team that is driven by beating personal bests, not just trying to get target, that's when the place comes to life. Das, I don't know about you, man. I get pumped when I play a game of golf and I play the best game I've ever played. I'm more excited about that than if I played a half crap game but still beat you.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Have you ever seen someone at the Olympics and they swim and they hit the podium and they got a gold medal, but they didn't hit the world record? They're kind of disappointed.
Yes.
There's something in us that when you really get to the point of beating your best, that's when people get excited, not just trying to scrape quota. Okay. And so this is the game. This is the wiggly worm. You'll notice your wiggly worm everywhere when you look for it. The two things you need to be careful from the very beginning is your own psychology and where are you setting your own limitations, your own invisible standards. The aim here is to lift your sights. Nothing will happen until you lift your sights and you start thinking bigger than you're currently thinking right now. That is the common through line that happens all the time. It's not until you shake yourself to go to a whole new paradigm, a whole new level, that's when the change starts to happen. Not this wiggly worm in between sales target and break even. So step one, get rid of break even thinking. It's not serving you in any way. And if you have to do break even thinking, artificially inflate it so that you at least know that you're getting more, right? But step two, keep sales targets where they are, but ask yourself this question. What's the best month you've ever had in business? Sales in. And imagine if you could take care of everything. Move forward, pick new markets, build new relationships, remove the constraints. Imagine you could do all of that The second question is, what could you hit in 1 month as a new PB? What is your project blah? Okay. So if it's 100K in a month, it'd be project 100. If it's $1 million in a month, it's project 1M. If it's 20 million in a month, it's project 20M. Whatever it may be for you, I want you to start thinking about that right now. What's your best PB? And what's this new paradigm shifting level that could be a game changer? Now, Das, the way we like to do this is the whole raise your arm as high as you can possibly go thing. I want everyone to do this. I want you to literally, and you too, Das, I want you to raise your right arm as high as you possibly can go. Right? As high as you possibly can go. Good? Everyone got it? Good? Now I want everyone just to go that little bit further. Bang. See that bit? If you saw the recording, you see me and Das both go, eh. And it's like whatever this muscle thing goes, ouch, don't do that. Right? That is where your project figure should be set. It's not through the roof, out of the atmosphere, beyond whatever it may be. It's something that you know within yourself is within reach, but uncomfortable. That's when you know you got your project figure nailed. It should be a little bit scary, but equally like there's something in it. I don't know I don't know what, I don't even know how, but I just know it's possible. That's all you need to have at this point.